What if I told you that one of the most iconic synth tracks of the 80s started as a romantic instrumental inspired by 19th century paintings? This is the fascinating story behind Fade to Grey, a song that helped define the new romantic movement made by musicians from Ultravox, Gary Newman, and a DJ from the Blitz Club. In the late 70s, according to Christopher Payne, who was part of Gary Newman's backing band, co-wrote what would become Fade to Grey. But at the time, it wasn't a song at all, just an instrumental composition. Payne was heavily inspired by the pre-Raphaelite painters, known for their dreamy romantic aesthetic. The idea was to create something atmospheric, something that felt like a study of romance. This track was originally a collaboration with Billy Currie, Midge Ure from Ultravox, Rusty Egan, and Steve Strange on the vocals, setting the pulse at London's Blitz Club. Visage was officially born in 1978. They fused glam, pop, and experimental music to create something new. It was at the Blitz that artists like Boy George, Spandau Ballet, and Visage were able to create music that was both futuristic and nostalgic. Additionally, Cedric Sharpley added drum elements to give it more structure. Billy Currie played the ARP synthesizer, possibly layering with an Elka string machine. They supposed to record the bass on a Mini-Moog, but it wasn't available. Instead, they had to use a Polymoog, specifically a brass preset, to recreate the bassline. This last-minute substitution helped give the track its unique sonic character. The drum machine was recorded separately onto a 2-inch tape recorder, while they rehearsed the additional elements by the rest of the band. Midge Ure contributed with the lyrics, additional synths and arrangements. And let's not forget Brigitte Arends, the girlfriend of Rusty Egan, who spoke French lyrics in the layered over the track that define its identity. And the rest, as they say, is history. In my studio, I'll be recreating Fade to Grey using both new and vintage synths and hardware, also using software in Logic Pro. The synths I will be using are the Streichfett String Synth, Juno 60, and the CR78 that I have already sampled to my Digitakt. Also, if you want to hear the full behind-the-scenes story from Christopher Payne himself, check out his channel. I leave the link in the description. If you saw my soft cell recreation, and you can go to that video to check out how I sampled the CR78 to the Digitakt, so I have already the samples here. According to one of the members of Visage, there was no CR78, but I'm going to be using this machine to recreate this sound, and I already went ahead and programmed this, and I'm going to show you the separate tracks first. Let's go with this. And this is an approximation, it's not exact. There's 2 bass drums in this song, one from the drum machine, and then there's another one. So first, let's listen to the kick. Now we're going to listen to the kick and the snare. Now the hi-hats. And now let's hear it with the kick. And there's a hi-hat that makes like an accent that is actually really cool. For the bass, I'm going to be using the Juno 60, and the reason why I'm using it is because I found a pattern that it actually sounds very close to the original sound. As it was mentioned on the video, it was made using a Mini-Moog, a brass sound. This is the original sound. I added a little bit of chorus. And then bass. Okay, so now for the pad, we're gonna use the Streichfett, which actually is very close to the original pad sound. I added some phaser, some reverb. I used the animate and also activated the ensemble mode. I used the Pluto tone for this, included a little bit of tremolo, and the sound here is the violin, since is an electronic string. We're gonna stick with that, and then we're gonna put it together on Logic Pro. So I'm gonna show you how I mix this track by Visage, Fade to Gray, and this track was quite interesting because it sounds very simple, but it has tiny elements that actually I never noticed when I listened to the song until I started recreating this. And I'm gonna start first with the CR74, which is the first part of the track. I'm gonna isolate those, and we have a kick snare. I doubled the snare. I'm gonna tell you why. And maybe sometimes I like to be a little rustic and do it by hand instead of putting a delay or an effect or something. So what I did basically is I just move a little bit the snares. So you can see one is here and the other one is slightly moved. So it creates that delay effect. You can do it with a plugin, but I don't know. I just like to do it this way. So because it was like that originally. Then we have the kick. Then the hi-hats. And then after that, we have the kick that is the entrance of the song with the bass. So we can hear it here with an open hat as well. It says here 78, but actually ignore this. It's actually the drum tracks, what I use for that. So you can hear. And again, I always like to put a little overdrive. Then we have the open hi-hat. Let me isolate this so you can hear just the drum tracks. Later, you're going to see that I added another snare that is for the part that is supposed to be the drum set that is played not by drum machines but by a musician. And I keep actually the open hat, the snare, and I added actually the drum kit that is part of Logic Pro. I use the Portland drum machine and I just tweak it a little bit. What I did with this was basically just leave the snare and the hi-hat because I don't like the kick of the drums from the drum kit on Logic Pro, and I decided just to leave the drum tracks kick, which actually it works. So I'm gonna show you first this. I took out every single fill amount or swing from the song. Fill complexity, I just put a little in 49, like 50%. So there's a slightly variation. If you don't have a drummer, this is actually a great solution. So let's hear it with the open hat and the snare. And now the kick. Which I think it actually works really well. I have to put a little overdrive and a spread so it doesn't compete with the snare here. because we have this snare. This is the drum tracks. But then actually having both, I think it gives it a little more punch to the song. Okay, now that we have the drum set, let's go with the bass. The bass was recorded in the Juno 60, as you could see. And I added actually a little bit of effect on the first part of the song, because it starts with the drum, the CR78, and then you have the bass. The bass, I noticed that it has a different sound, so I added a little bit of flanger. But then I took it off in this one, and I just added a little bit of compression. Let's hear it with the bass now. Okay, now that we have the bass, let's go with the pad, which is probably the most important part of the song. And actually the Streichfett worked really well to recreate this sound. I don't have an Elka Strings. I think it's the Rhapsody, the one that they used. I don't have that. But I think actually that little machine, the string synthesizer, which I barely use, was very good to use it in this. And I use it also in the Cars song Drive, that you can actually check it out in my channel. So you can listen to the Streichfett in both songs. And this is the pad. Let's hear it with all the drums and the stuff that we've been working so far. Actually, let's put it from the beginning so you can see how the song is progressing. And here you see that it's getting a little cut, so I think maybe here we need a little transition with the fade tool, like fade to gray. Very bad joke, nerdy joke, because he's cut it here, so let's add a little bit of this guy. So it doesn't sound cut it. We can even extend it more if we want. Not bad. We can move it. I like it. And then we have at the beginning of the song, that big, almost like a siren sound, which I love that sound. And I was trying to find. Actually, I forgot to do it in a regular synth. So honestly, I thought it was easier to go with the retro synth, and actually that works super good. You're gonna hear why. Because I added some analog sounds to this on Juno, on the Juno 60. That is a transition where there's like this bridge that starts with this lead that goes like. Well, you will hear it later. But for this sound, I just went and used the deep side and tweak it a little bit to have that growth from one note to the other. So the filter enveloped, then the sine level as well, and most of it was this auto band that worked really well, this oscillator, so you can hear it. The oscillator sine is the one that I used, so let's hear it. So if I show you, I want to show you a little bit how it sounds here so you can hear it. So here we just have like, but this is growing. But it was around here. Because if not, it will be just that. And we don't want that. We want it to grow. Only oscillator one. So there you have that sound. Then with this we have the transition from an analog synth that is this lead that you're gonna hear. Let me put it here. And I included the same retro synth with this. And somehow I was tweaking the oscillators and the envelope of the Juno 60. I got two separate takes, and I think by combining both work better than just leaving one. So that's why you see two here. Okay, now that we hear that bridge, let's hear it with the whole song. I had a little bit of tremolo and also the Quantex reverb that you can see here. Now, the bells, which is a very important element too in the second part of the song. It has a delay that goes stereo, like one side to the other side. So if you listen to the track, you're going to hear that it's jumping one side to the other. So I'm going to play it without that. This one has a chorus of the Juno 60, so it has a chorus already, so I didn't include that. And we have the Quantec, a little bit of the Quantec reverb, a little bit of overdrive, and the delay. Let's hear it without it. Now let's hear it with the delay. And we have that big kind of tom with a little bit of snare that I actually use one of the drums from the Logic Pro. That is the modern disco one. Another interesting thing that I discovered on this song, and I don't know if you listened to it before, and please leave me in the comments if you listen to this, is that there's only a little bit of pizzicato in the song. It's just like a very tiny part, and I want to think that they were probably just like having a violin there and they were having fun with it and someone just decided to record it. If you have any story of why they decided to record this tiny piece of pizzicato in the song, please let me know. I found it funny, actually, like that it's just like a tiny piece. That's it. And it's a little pan to the right side. So let me show it to you with the whole track. And that's it. There's no more violin sections or pizzicatos or orchestras or anything. That's the only part which I found very interesting. And that's pretty much the whole song. And we have at the end of the track, again, this analog synth that is playing and is having these very cool sounds. It was very hard to identify the actual chords on this because they're like very, very way back in the track. So I tried to do my best to emulate that part, but let me show it to you first without any. So at the end of the song, you listen to all these variations of analog synth. It gives the track like a very good feeling of like, okay, the song is ending. The song in general is very simple. Like, I mean, all the elements that are here are quite simple, but I think adding these tiny elements like the pizzicato, like the big toms, and finally this analog synth gives the track even like a more rich vibe. So let's hear it with all the elements now. So it's really cool. It reminds me a little bit of Jean-Michel Jarre somehow. I don't know why, this kind of synthesizer. But now let's hear the complete track with all the mix and all the elements together.